name is Tara McGinnis, and I'm the Senior Vice President for CAP Action. And I'm delighted to be here today, not only at Campus Progress, but with this particularly fantastic group of panelists to talk about a subject that I'm incredibly passionate about, but also that could not be more important at this particular moment in time. Just our fundamental right to vote, in particular, how does it affect students? So I think today, with this panel, we've been collaborating behind the scenes over a week or so, and because this topic is so rich, because there's so many new dynamics happening in a bunch of different states that you may be living and organizing in, we're going to try and get some nutritious information out at the top about what's happening, what's the horizon for voting of students, where did the attacks we're seeing today come from, and what you can do about it quickly, and then really turn this into a dynamic conversation with really what are some of the country's best experts on this, and leading organizers in a way that we can hopefully move this conversation forward. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce my panelists, and I have to say, as someone who works in the voting rights space, this is like incredible people, and you can tackle them. There are two people who may miss their trains, but they're a fountain of knowledge up here. If there's anything you need to know, these are the three people who you want to have at your back as an attorney or at your front advocating for what we need. We're in the space of the media who is already really leading the media conversation. So I'm just going to start moving down from my immediate left. These bios are long and impressive, so I'm just going to pull out one or two things. Dan McCuna, who is currently a staff attorney with the Fair Elections Legal Network. He's also running their Campus Vote Project program, which is important for a number of you. Huge background in law and legal research. He's going to help us talk today a little bit about how we get out of where we are. Ari Berman went over to my left, contributing writer for The Nation magazine, and guest investigative journalism fellow at the Nation Foundation. For those of you who have not read his piece that ran in Rolling Stone, which I believe is called The GOP War on Voting, I cannot recommend it highly enough. He's got a series of pieces he's written on this, but it really broke open the door in how the media was covering this growing war of Republicans on voting. And then last but certainly not least, Lee Rowland, who's counsel for the Brennan Center for Justice's Democracy Program. She works on voter registration, their large voter modernization program, and restoring the right to vote to individuals. She has a vast experience and has had some fun days at working as an attorney for the ACLU in Nevada, which we got to hear about earlier. I encourage you to ask some questions about that. This is a tremendous team, and I'm going to kind of get us into it and ask Lee in a moment to really set the horizon. But I thought I might just put a fine point on the issue by sharing with you a quote from the New Hampshire GOP speaker, William O'Brien, who is incidentally and not coincidentally a Republican, when he was discussing voter rights, described why he wanted to make it more difficult in New Hampshire for students to vote. He said, quote, students vote their feelings. They vote as liberals. In fact, he stated that young people are too stupid to vote. And there's a number of incredible quotes like this. Luckily, this was about the best organized. Is there anyone in the room who's going to school in New Hampshire, is organizing in New Hampshire? Okay, no New Hampshire here, no reader dyers, but thankfully, Speaker O'Brien did the best thing he could do for the students who were organizing in New Hampshire at the time. Even a number of Republican students joined them and helped actually feed back some efforts there. But I'm going to ask, just at the beginning, Lee, can you give us a horizon? Where are we? What's going on with voting as it refers to student voting rights at this moment?
Absolutely, and thank you all for coming to this and showing up and showing that you care about this really important issue. We are just a couple months out from a general election, and as I'm about to go through, there have been a number of laws passed in the last 2 years in the state legislatures that do and are intended to make it more difficult to register and to vote. And many of these laws will have particularly devastating impacts for students. But don't worry, I'm going to pull us out of the depressing nosedive because there's a really good silver lining, which a lot of these laws have been stopped in their tracks by voting rights advocates, by election officials, and by students and schools and colleges looking out for their students. So, in a nutshell, I'm going to focus on a couple kinds of laws really quickly. Obviously, we can go more in depth on any of these topics when we turn to questions, but just want to lay a little bit of the ground here. So we at the Brennan Center really collect information nationally about the suppressive laws relating to voting rights and elections that have been passed in the last 2 years, and they're really vast. As I'm sure you know, they include a barrage of new photo ID laws, cutbacks to early voting, restrictions on absentee and early voting, as well as making it harder to actually register and to actually vote for all kinds of voters. And these laws will have particularly devastating impacts for elderly voters, for Black and Latino voters in particular, and for students. So I'm just going to focus on the laws that impact students because I think that's most interesting at a Campus Progress event. But if you visit the Brennan Center's website, you can find information on all of these laws that we characterize as suppressive. So I want to focus on really 3 kinds of laws that have happened in a couple of states. The first is photo ID, but more specifically photo ID laws that are particularly designed to screw over students, okay, and explicitly so. Photo ID laws we think are bad because they require generally government-issued photo ID that 1 in 10 Americans do not have. But when photo ID laws are drafted in a way that excludes student IDs, you understand that students are going to be particularly victimized by these laws. So out of the 9 states that passed photo ID laws in the last 2 years, there are 5 in particular that really deserve kind of a scarlet letter for excluding students. There are 3 states, South Carolina, Texas, and Tennessee, that have all explicitly decided in their law that student IDs do not qualify, even if they are government-issued photo IDs, just like all the other IDs that are accepted under the law. One kind of particularly egregious comparison is Texas, where they accept your concealed handgun license, but will not take your student ID. Now, it's shocking in and of itself, but perhaps the crazier part is when you look at those demographics, and who's in which demographic, I bet it won't surprise you to know, just to take one demographic point of reference, African Americans make up 7% of concealed carry permit holders in Texas. They make up about 18%, about 7.7% of public university students. So when you make a choice as to what kind of ID you permit under those laws, you manipulate the electorate, and that's what's going on with these laws. So those are 3 I want to highlight. 2 other states that deserve the same scarlet letter, but have failed, unfortunately, at excluding students are Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. In both those states, photo ID laws accepted student IDs that didn't exist. They both wrote into the law, we accept a student ID so long as it has a current address, as well as an expiration date that is current. Not a single ID in the state of Wisconsin complied with that when they structured the law. In Pennsylvania, some did, but the vast majority did not. Now, fortunately, schools and universities took it really seriously that they were going to make sure their students could vote. And immediately, schools like Penn State, the UWIS system, started reissuing IDs or making IDs compliant. In Wisconsin, they had a really tough fight of it. If anybody's in Wisconsin, I'm sure you watched this unfold. They wanted to put some holographic stickers, and the elections board said no, not going to cut the mustard. So they actually had to reissue student IDs in order to be compliant with that law. That's great that they're standing up for their students, but it's absolutely horrible that instead of spending their limited budgets to educate, they got to make sure that their students retain their basic and most fundamental constitutional right. That is really ridiculous, and it's upside down, but fortunately those students will be protected. Now, the bigger silver lining is that South Carolina, Texas, and Wisconsin are all being challenged in the courts. Wisconsin has actually been stopped, the new photo ID law, by a state court. So it's very likely that none of those laws will be in place in November. So again, that's coming out of the nosedive. Round 1, really bad. Round 2 in the courts is going to the voters. Okay. Second kind of law is making it harder to register. You guys know students frequently move right before a general election because school starts in the fall. It's really critical that people have opportunities to register when they get to campus, and that happens in 2 ways. Registering online, right, or going to a campus registration drive. States have actually cracked down on both of those things. In Florida, the legislature passed a law that is just such a smorgasbord of awful, I can't even begin to scratch the surface, having lots of questions about it, but among other things placed ridiculous and strict and basically impossible restrictions on community voter registration groups like the League of Women Voters and Rock the Vote, and PIRG, Florida PIRG. PIRG and Rock the Vote are the 2 campus staples. They're responsible for registering thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of student voters in Florida. They were not able to register voters after that new law was passed. They're my clients. We represented them. We won. We got a federal court injunction against that law. Most of that law, including the most onerous parts, won't be in place in November, and those groups are back down on the ground registering voters as of last month. In Wisconsin, again, really kind of unbelievable. They extended the residency period. So it used to be you had to live somewhere for 10 days. Now you have to live there for 28 days before you can register to vote, and you have to live there for 27 consecutive days before you can register. So you've got to live there long enough to make sure you register in time for deadline to get to the election. So now you're having to plan ahead.